item number 9, new item number 9, we're trying to move through is annexation. But always, this seems like it's a constant conversation that this council is dealing with. We're not taking any action. There's not a property to take action on. But it does seem like it won't say it every month, but it does seem like every couple months we have an annexation request or someone is soliciting the city for annexation, and Jason and John are the first ones to see that, and then they make that legal determination before it moves on elsewhere. And there's always a lot of chatter, and city council watches other meetings like they watch our meetings, and we see things and hear things, and we're like, know that that's quite right. And it gets hard to be able to, on our behalf, I think, respond to some of that. And especially when you have people watching things on TV and they take things and they hear it certain ways. And quite frankly, the city's always made out to be the bad guy in the situation. And I just don't think that's necessarily the case, although we have to be diligent with everything we're doing. So I think there were some things about the current requested annexation that was talked about at the last county commissioner meeting that wanted to talk about that between Jason and I think Trey had looked over some stuff. And so you guys take it, whatever you want to do.
If y'all don't mind, I'm going to step down for just a minute. So I've asked Jason to help out with this. Since we don't have mics, it makes this a little easier, but that way I can look at y'all at the same time.
Right.
Y'all can throw things at me if I get
That's it. You act up, I'll call you out of work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So after listening to last month's county commission meeting, many of us felt that it was time to clear up some things. We believe the city of Hartwell and Hart County are awesome communities, and that many of the things that are being said are misleading and are creating a negative atmosphere in our community. Under Georgia Code Title 3636, citizens are awarded the right to annexation. That's where the law of the state gives people that right. Under 3620, it grants the authority for someone to do it under the 100% annexation. Under 3632, it grants people with the 60-40 annexation, and there you've got to have 60% of the landowners and 60% of the voting population to do that type of an annexation. And then under 3650, it grants where the General Assembly can do an annexation. But what we want to talk about tonight is more on what happens when the county objects. Because I think we believe that's where some of the things are getting a little bit kind of diluted. So we're going to refer to the ACCG's Government Affairs Arbitration Guide. And this is where we have Georgia Municipal Association. This is an organization the county has that educates them on things. So we're going to go off of their guide. And on page 1 of their guide, it says, because cities generally allow higher density or more intense use of property, annexation can sometimes result in development the county believes is inconsistent with the county's land use plans for adjoining unincorporated properties. The annexation arbitration process was enacted to provide a way for the county to be heard on that. But there's rules. On page 2, it goes on to say, to manage expectations, county commissioners should have a clear understanding of what the annexation arbitration panel can and cannot do. And I think this is where we're doing this tonight, because I think it's real important that the general public understands what the arbitration panel can and cannot do. The arbitration panel cannot deny or turn down the annexation. They cannot require the city or applicant to start over and follow the statutory procedures. Or they cannot consider any impact annexation will have on the local school system's budget. So any objection under those do not qualify at all. In short, the arbitration panel does not rule for or against the county or the city. The process is not designed for one side to win and the other side to lose. And while school-related infrastructure is cost to be paid by the county governing authority may be relevant, additional costs to be borne by the school system are not. Instead, if the county has raised a valid objection as the term is defined by law, and if the arbitration panel determines the county's objection warrants, then an arbitration panel can do the following. It can establish reasonable zoning, land use, or density conditions that will apply to that annexed piece of property for 2 years. They can propose reasonable migration mitigating measures to address the demands on county infrastructure. And if the annexation causes a financial impact on the county, then they can look at that. On page 3, it goes on to say in deciding whether to object. So it's telling the county officials what to look at to decide on whether to object. And the county should keep these facts in mind. If the county does not object and the annexation proceeds with the zoning proposed by the city in its notice, the city cannot change that zoning for 1 year. It goes on to say that if the county does object and goes through arbitration, then that zoning cannot be changed for just 2 years. So it's not a forever thing. It's either 1 year or 2 years. But after that, it goes to that it can be changed. It goes on to say that the arbitration panel can provide the basis for amending the SDS, but it cannot be for SDS. So you can't, and SDS is service delivery strategy. So the county cannot object based on service delivery strategies.
Which is who has authority over the water
Right.
system or the sewer system
Yep.
or whatever other system.
That's not a reason to object. On page 4, it goes on to explain the county must allege that the annexation will result in a material increase in burden upon the county due to at least one of the following reasons: the proposed change in zoning or land use, proposed increase in density, or infrastructure demands. The important thing is it has to be documented. It goes on to say that the evidence of the financial impact the county contends will result has to be part of their objection. When they turn that objection into Department of Community Affairs, they have to say why it is being objected, and they have to show the financial burden that the county has on that. In page 5, it states that a county cannot submit a valid objection by simply stating the annexation will require the county to alter its service delivery. So we were talking about that just a minute ago. And that's on page 5. So when the arbitration panel meets and hears the evidence offered by the county, the city, and perhaps the developer, the county has the burden of proof to establish that the annexation and proposed change in zoning will result in a substantial change in the intensity of the allowed use or a change to significant different allowable use. So if things are staying pretty much what they are now, if it's housing now and it's going to stay housing, they really can't do anything. There's nothing they can do there. If it's commercial now in the county and it's going to be commercial in the city, there's no change there. If it differs substantially from the existing use, which is what we were just discussing. On page 6, the statute directs the arbitration panel to consider the following matters if there is evidence addressing them: the comprehensive land use plans of both the county and the city, the existing land use patterns in the area of the subject property, the existing zoning patterns in the area of the subject property, each jurisdiction's provision of infrastructure in the area of the subject property, whether the county has approved similar changes in intensity or allowed use for similar development in unincorporated areas of the county, whether the county has approved similar developments in other unincorporated areas having similar impact on infrastructure as from that establishment, whether the infrastructure or capital outlay project which the county claims is adversely impacted, was funded by a countywide tax. So that's what they're going to be looking at. On page 8, it says if the parties cannot agree, so we're going into arbitration. If we can't agree voluntarily, the panel is required to make a decision. The panel has a limited set of options under state law available to it. It could rule that the county's evidence does not show a material increase in the burden upon the county will result from the annexation, and therefore the panel would not impose any zoning or land use modifications. It could rule the county's evidence does show a material increase in burden to the county. And that they will go on to reduce that burden by imposing reasonable land use or density restrictions for a period of 2 years, so the county has time to make the changes. They can qualify and state in writing the financial impact and make sure the county gets that money back, but they can't stop it. They can only look at those things, and the county has to address those things in their objection, and they have to be real. Can't be that we just don't want it. The ACC document's conclusion is residents in unincorporated areas of the county living near but not in the area to be annexed understandably feel uncomfortable. They have no representation on city council and therefore expect their county commissioners to be their voice in opposition to change. It can be difficult to explain to these citizens the limitations counties face in trying to stop an annexation in its tracks. Counties can speak for these citizens by filing an objection showing that the change in zoning, density, or intensity of the use is inconsistent with the land uses near the annexed area. But it's not a valid objection unless it has the financial burden and follows the law. So let's talk about the county's comp plan real quick. Since the county does not have zoning, their comp plan covers their land use. In the county's comp plan on page 27, it states, to achieve these goals, the county should work with the municipalities to steer higher density land use toward the existing urbanized neighborhoods, being the city. So in their own comp plan, they're saying they should work for the development here. The areas surrounding the city are covered under 2 sections, one being the greater Hartwell, shown in purple. We'll pull that up.
Yeah. It's weird that character map is after all the explanations about what the character map is.
So the area in purple on this map is what is called in the Hart County Comprehensive Plan, Greater Hartwell. This is the area we have annexed property primarily for residential development. Because in the description it states, the goal of this area is to enhance the form and character of Hartwell, so to alleviate development pressures throughout the rural Hart County and to create a transitional space between the 2 areas, rural and urban. Development should be fostered that complements what exists in Hartwell, maintaining the town's scale and design. So pretty much all the annexations we've done in that area have all been, other than the Ford dealership, have pretty much been residential, in keeping with our comp plan and the county's comp plan. It goes on to state that residential should mimic Hartwell. The other area surrounding the city is the Lake Hartwell corridor, shown in yellow. And this is mainly the lake area. And the description says this area will feature more of the commercial and service amenities for residents and visitors, so as to pull tourists deeper into Hart County and to maximize the utility services areas, which is the sewer line that we have in the city. So in their own comp plan, they're encouraging people to come towards us. There's a process that the city has for annexation. After the landowner submits the request must go in front of our planning and zoning board. While in planning and zoning, the annexation is evaluated for legalities to ensure that the property fits not only the county's comp plan, but also that the property is in conformity with the policies and intent of the city's comprehensive plan. If the annexation will adversely affect the existing use or usability of nearby properties, and to the extent which the proposed zoning will result in a use which will or could cause excessive or burdensome use of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, schools, parks, and other public facilities, as well as other things. Our planning and zoning board has done a phenomenal job. Everything that comes in front of them, they go through with a fine-tooth comb. When it comes out of planning and zoning, they've sent to us recommendations. They've said that we need to cut this back, we need to do this. As a council, we have pretty much followed them. If anything, we've made it a little more restrictive at times. Because again, we have to follow a certain guideline when somebody comes in. During the last county meeting, there was a lot of discussion on the sewer line that is being put in. Going back to ACCG's training document, on page 5, it states the county cannot submit a valid objection by simply stating the annexation will require the county to alter its service delivery, or that it requires amendments to the service delivery. I want to make sure that's understood, that they cannot use service delivery as a reason to object to an annexation legally. Now, they can do it in a meeting and they can make a vote, but it can't go anywhere. The sewer maps that are on the DCA's website are not correct. You have those? We believe the county, while trying to use it now, during this last meeting, they know that it's not correct. Some may not, they're newer on there. But the maps that are correct were submitted to DCA by the county in June of 2023. And they're not the same maps that are up there. They signed those other maps. They know what the other maps are. To use them now, I find it troubling that they use those in a meeting when they were not correct.
We've notified GMRC. They're trying to.
We are in the process of clearing that up.
What they agreed to.
We all are working on that, but nowhere, I can tell you, if they had told me that the whole county was sewer, I would have known right away. We've never agreed to that. That's never been something that's been agreed to between the city and the county in the 18 years I've been here. And it's always been open.
So let
that
me
we could
explain.
expand or not.
Councilman, let me just kind
Sure.
of further explain. The white area on this map for sewer service delivery has always been unclaimed
Yep.
Except for a very small portion
by the interstate.
on the interstate
That
corridor, right?
provider is Livonia.
And if you pull it out, it's there.
Yeah.
And the county may contract with Livonia, but it goes to Livonia sewer plant, okay? But the white area is the area that, when we, back in March, we negotiated this. In April, the city council approved the
Of
change.
2023.
This is 2023.
Okay.
And in June of 2023, you signed the maps based off what we negotiated, and the county signed the maps in June of 2023 based off what we negotiated. That's on the website. It's got their signatures on it. It's got your signature on it. But there were some inconsistencies with providers on the map between other cities that provide services in our county. And DCA threw them out and told GMRC to go back and fix it. And they did not, they messed it up when they went back and tried to fix it. The maps that are on the website now are completely off, and they're off in water and sewer. Okay, there's some areas on the map, at DCA's map right now, that show it's in the city territory for water that are in the county's territory.
Yeah.
So we've got some things to work out. We've had some initial conversations with the county and GMRC to try to mitigate them, and we will. We'll fix this. Okay.
Yeah, just
Thank you for clarifying that, because it got real confusing. I mean, here I don't think any of us had even looked at the DCA map until that night. But we know what we've agreed to and what we haven't.
Some will say that our county commissioners are protecting us. Out of the last 10 annexations, 7 of them have been objected to in a meeting by the county commissioners. Of those 7, only 2 were sent to Department of Community Affairs for the arbitration process to start. Out of the 2 that was sent, 1, the paperwork was not filled out correctly, so Department of Community Affairs didn't move that one forward. And the other, a panel was never put together. DCA has the right to review the reason for the objection and to decide whether or not a panel should be put together or a panel should not. And a panel was not put together for that arbitration. The only people that have gained from this are the lawyers. With the knowledge the oldest member of the county commissioner has, and he sits on the state arbitration board, I've got to believe that when he makes these objections, he knows that these are not going to go anywhere. They're not properly done and they're not properly filled out. What this is doing is put all of us in an awkward situation because we're trying to follow the law. A citizen has a right to ask for annexation, and we follow the procedures that are done. We don't take every annexation. We don't take every annexation that's been requested. The big one that we turned down was the marina. You know, when the marina came to us, we turned that annexation down. Many of the issues that the county's had with growth come from lack of planning. At this stage, over the last 4 years, there's been 69 new homes built inside of the city limits. During that same time, there's been over 400 houses built in the rural community, which their comp plan clearly says that those houses should have come in towards the city, but they don't follow their own land use plan. In that last meeting as well, a county commissioner stated that a particular piece of property was going to be under B2. I want to clarify that the ordinance that he pulled up and the ordinance that he read from is an outdated ordinance. He pulled it from Unicode, and they have not updated their files. But we made it very clear. We spent a lot of time over the last year and a half rewriting that ordinance. And under the new ordinance that we passed last year, all residential in B2 is conditional. So we understood that we don't want a lot of residential in the B2 area, and that's something that we've worked on to correct. We have a great community. As a city, we will continue to preserve the things our community has felt important while properly planning and growing under the guidelines of our comp plan. And it's time to stop misinforming the public and to work together. The negativity has got to stop. I believe this to be a great community. I just hope that we can all start working together. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Trey. Thank you. Trey Jason had talked about putting together a little bit of detail in regards to this for a little while. Jason's kind of stuck a lot of times as kind of the whipping post in between the two, as because it's not that the city wants to continue to expand its boundaries in an adversarial way. And we don't even go out and talk to people and say, please come annex. Like, that's absolutely the opposite. And sometimes Jason looks at things and says, this just is not a legal annexation. It doesn't fit the parameter, or we kind of discourage the activity of what use you're wanting to put on that certain property. And some things go away because of that. And then some people just change their plans in regards to what our character map and stuff says. You know, I know that Jason has spent a lot of time in training. I mean, he is a planning and zoning director, taken a lot of courses. I know it's been some council members who have taken some GMA courses, and, you know, it just, you know, we read our documents, we read the GMA, we read what the ACCG says, and then we scratch our head when it seems like the interpretation is significantly different. We see counsel from our city attorney a lot of times in relation to this. Are we reading this wrong? And it just gets hard. And I know that, and you know, we have friends on county commission. We all live here, and everybody's trying to represent the people in which they represent. They're elected citizens, and you know, sometimes the law and sometimes the way things are laid out, which may look that way in this document, it almost keeps your hands tied. You know, you ever wonder, why does government work the way it does? Like, why is it that way? Well, then you get behind the scenes and you realize there's a set of rules and regulations that kind of dictate where things go. And it was told to me that, you know, the county was going to proceed with an arbitration in regards to the last annexation, and that's totally their right to send it in. And if it has merit, then it will be addressed. And if it doesn't, then I guess it will be made known what the final rule is on that. And we'll have to be diligent, council, in everything that we do. I know you guys are thoughtful. And John or Jason, anything particular? I mean, we're not asking for any votes or anything, guys.
No,
We just
I'd
want
like to piggyback off some of the comments, just on the staff level.
Okay.
We always take these things pragmatically. One of the first things we look at when we get something like a petition to annex to the city is how what's being proposed, how it matches or doesn't match the county's comprehensive plan. That's one of the first things we look at. And how would that marry to our comprehensive plan? And does this proposal work or it doesn't work? And a lot of times we tell the people that are coming to us, like, look, you've got to change this because it doesn't fit. We always try to do that. We do it pragmatically, okay? And another point I like to make too is, yes, the county has made objections to annexations in the past, but a lot of times their objections and their concerns we share similar concerns. And, you know, we've always tried to listen to the public and listen to the county and translate those concerns into conditions that we put on annexations. And so I think, you know, there's been a lot said about how we view things and how, but a lot of times their concerns are our concerns too. And we reflect that in the conditions that we put on properties.
One of the things that would help is if they would wait until we went through our process by this present annexation, by bringing it up this early in the game. Our planning and zoning board hasn't had a chance to look at this. We haven't had a chance to look at any of it, you know, outside of the staff saying that it looks like it's all legal. But all the conditions that the planning and zoning board will put on this haven't been placed on it yet. And it's really not fair to any of the people that are requesting annexation to have someone involved in it before the procedures have taken place.
Any public comment or questions? I mean, again, we're just trying to throw a little education out there. Hopefully, some of this will be translated well through HTC, and folks that are interested in these sort of things will listen and key in on it, replay it. We think that sometimes it seems like we're a mile apart on a lot of things with the county, but I don't think we're really that far apart. It's just,
We really aren't.
there's just on occasion, there's a few issues that pop up that seem to be the burr. And sometimes it's what's hot on the presses at the moment, you know? So council, I guess what I would say is we all need to be diligent on our side to evaluate zoning laws and regulations and take classes and learn and, be smart about what we're doing. So no action need to be taken. Council, any comments? I mean, we can be here all night. I think we got people needing to go places anyway. City council comment, anything? John?